Welcome to the Long Run Podcast. And no, this podcast is not about running, but this is the podcast about running the race of life. We're here to help you pursue Christ while navigating life so you can make life count in the long run of eternity. And guiding the conversation today is your favorite 22-year-old podcast host, Weston Downing, here to ask the hard questions we all have but aren't talking about. With that being said, here's another episode of the Long Run Podcast. There we go.
I see now.
So we've literally been singing that song all day today. Thank you to some great worship we had this Sunday.
A banger, an absolute banger.
Absolute banger. All right, new guest this week, Dyllan Avery-Smith is in the house.
Let's go! You already.
All right, Dyllan Avery-Smith, you got a double last name here.
Two last names.
Two last names, that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
You got a backstory to that you can share, don't want to share?
Yeah, a little backbone.
Prying into your life.
Here we go, man. So my mom, you guys know my mom, Kim Avery-Smith. So she was dating my dad, and they got pregnant with me. Praise the Lord.
Yeah,
it's an awesome
and
day.
you're here now.
I'm here now. And so previously my mom had been married and had my sister, and she kind of raised my sister fully, and my sister had another man's last name. And then my mom and dad weren't for sure if they were going to stay together. And so I think my mom was like, hey, no matter what, this kid's going to get the name Avery. Like he's going to get
cool.
my maiden name. So she made it Avery-Smith.
Love that.
But my parents reconciled. They've been married for 20 plus years. But
it's awesome.
So yeah, it's Dyllan Cade Avery-Smith, and then my wife's name is Tessa Jean Newpon Avery-Smith. So we got long names in the crib.
Awesome.
Crazy.
And you're newly married.
Newly married, man.
How long you been married?
3.5 months, man.
Wow.
Crazy.
3.5 months. And Dyllan, I'm going to be the microphone police on you.
Oh,
so I want you to pull your microphone down so they can see your pretty face.
Yes, sir.
On the camera over here.
Love you
just
guys.
right under the mouth there. Yeah. People always talk about how I'm just the microphone police. I got onto Robbie.
Better?
I get onto Robbie like 12 different times.
Well,
Fist away. Yeah, that's good.
He's disobedient, so.
Oh, completely. To the
100%.
fullest.
Right.
So we actually met. You used to be my neighbor.
Yes.
For like the first few months. You did the same 9-month Bible Institute
Right.
that I'm in right now. You were living right next door because you used to live in my house.
Dang right, baby.
Which explains why there's so many cockroaches in the house.
Unreal, dude. It's disgusting, Phil. You should have seen it before we moved in there. They were like thousands.
Are you kidding?
Thousands, bro. Infested.
I think they went from quantity to quality, and they're like huge
The
now.
chunkers.
Like, I walked in the other day and I saw one cooking eggs in the kitchen, and I was
Scrambling them. You're like, thanks, dude. Appreciate you.
Some people are just grossed out right now listening to
Bro, stop, please.
And so, yeah, I met you. I remember moving into the house, and there was like this, these little like a little brick stepping stones, whatever you call them.
Yeah.
And there was spray painted or painted on the brick, one of them, in white paint.
Yeah.
Dyllan is daddy. And I was like, and so I keep walking in the house, moving stuff in the next few days. I'm like, who the heck is Dyllan? I was like, this is so weird.
hilarious.
And you come over, and I'm like, he is just Mr. Free Spirit.
Just flowing with it.
For those of you who aren't viewing this on YouTube, Dyllan has this long blonde hair. He's got it in a bun right now.
The California. People ask me that all the time. Like, even at one of your EL things, I came and spoke at it. Before. Like, are you from California? I'm like, I wish. I wish I was from California.
You talked about surfing, I think, or something.
Yeah, something. So they're like kind of confused. But long, luscious locks, baby.
Well, we got a good episode ahead of us, but before we move there, Dyllan, give us a quick introduction of yourself. Less than 60 seconds. Where are you from?
Here we go.
Who you are? What you're doing now?
Yeah.
How you got to Memphis, Tennessee? Just give us it all.
Here we go. Yeah, Dyllan Avery-Smith. I was going to Missouri State University, graduated in 2019. Rob Loney had went through DL downline, and so did Leah Conchola, both Missouri State people. Met up with Robbie, decided to move down here to do the downline program, which we both did.
Sweet.
Did the ELs, lived in your house. And then I was working, and we'll get into this, working at a place called Agape North, transitioned into a place called Give Clean. I actually worked at Stacks before, was unemployed for a while. Crazy
Stacks is a
restaurant, breakfast place.
pancakes specifically.
Pancakes specifically. I worked there. Cinestacks are great. And then, now I'm working at Harvest Church as the junior high director, which has been stinking awesome. So I've been there for going on 5 months now.
So you're working in full-time ministry, the junior high director.
Yeah.
Okay, so when did you start there again? You probably just told me about it.
August 17th was the exact date.
Of this past year?
Of this past year.
Oh, wow. So you got married in October?
The last week of September.
So you started your new job.
Yeah.
You got married.
Yeah.
Wow.
There's a bunch of new stuff. Yep. New house, new job, new wife.
Now let's back up even more. You're going to this 9-month Bible Institute. You're in a new city.
Yeah.
Trying to adjust. When did you meet your wife, Tessa?
So we met in college, my freshman year at a thing called Kaleo.
Did y'all do downline together?
Yeah, we did, but we didn't plan on it. We weren't dating before, and then we found out we're going downline together. Crazy. We hit it off real well. The summer went great. Went on a couple of dates. Started dating, and it was weird.
Sounds like a podcast episode in of itself.
Let's get it.
I add that all the time.
Come on, baby.
Okay, so you're working at a place called Agape North.
Yeah.
So obviously people that step into full-time ministry and, many careers, you kind of have a desire to do that career.
Right.
When did you decide that you wanted to do this full-time ministry thing,
Yeah.
which I would assume you want to keep doing?
Right. Yeah.
What do you see yourself doing next few years? Becoming like a youth pastor potentially somewhere?
Yeah. I think, going through STUMO in college, my senior summer, I was called a team leader. And so
STUMO is
it's a parachurch. It's called STUMO, Student Mobilization. There it is. And
so
it's
college ministry.
On college. It's started by Steve Shadrach. And they just try to reach really fraternity, sorority, and athletics. It's kind of like its main ideal. So I was in fraternity, and I got to go on staff for a summer. And so I got to be able to teach. I was clearly not working. Working was ministry. And I was like, dude, this is it. I've worked bunches of jobs, and I was like, man, this is it. I know I'm called to do ministry no matter what I'm doing, but I'm like, this is something I want to do vocationally. And so coming to downline, I prayed for that for a long time and didn't get it. And I was like, man, what's happening? Why? And then I got this gig, and I think I would love to stay in it. I don't know what that entails, if that's a youth pastor, if that's missions, if that's head pastor. I don't know what that is, but definitely want to continue in it the rest of my life.
Well, see, that's something I want to dive into, because me and Robbie had this conversation. He was telling me about where you were at working at this company. You know where this is going, and you don't like it, do you? Because now we're revisiting it.
Don't take me there.
As we rewind the tapes of Dyllan's life to the past year, because you haven't been at Harvest that long then, since coming in August, which is the church we're both at now.
Right.
Which is why we were singing that song in the beginning, because that was the worship song this morning. And so as we rewind the tapes back to you a year ago, and first of all, what is Agape North, and what did your day consist of, or even your week?
Dude, Agape North mainly sends, for charter schools, makes their what's called school uniforms. So they make them, they print them, and we ship them. And so I was the van dude. So they needed something delivered. Hey, Dyllan, let's get it. So I would drive everywhere.
Skinny blonde-haired guy pulls up in the van. The van dude.
We'd have people call and be like, "Hey, dude, there's a hippie driving your van. He ran the stoplight." And people are calling me hippie. KB told me that story, but yeah, dude. So I literally would drive hours a day, 5 hours a day. I'd probably work 9 to 1:30, and then I was done, which was awesome. But just driving strictly.
And so how did COVID affect your job any?
Yeah, so COVID hit and we shut down Agape, and by the time we got it up, school was canceled and no one needed deliveries. So they're like, "Hey, Dyllan, we don't work for you." So there's a 2-week span where I filed for unemployment, got one check, and then they're like, "Hey, we can get you in at Give Clean. We can get you some hours with his other business, Give Clean," which is what it sounds like. It's cleaning. Which I was like, man, I need the money. I'm not living off unemployment.
So you're cleaning clothes, or?
Nah, bro, we're cleaning bathrooms. I'm cleaning doo-doo. I'm cleaning carpet. We did it all. Waxing floors.
Sounds humbling.
Bro, it was, man, it was wild. And it's, I would say, one of the most monumental moments in my walk of faith, to be honest.
So you knew you wanted to do full-time ministry.
Right.
And due to, a pandemic and other, job situations, moving to a different city or whatever, you went from kind of driving a van, living your life, jamming to your music, I'm sure, kind of cruising down the city, to cleaning toilets.
Legendary.
And what are you thinking during this time? And the reason I ask, because of course we're going somewhere with this, is I'm sure everyone listening is in a place right now that they don't want to be.
Right.
some people are like, no, I'm fine where I'm at. But the majority of us are really fixated on what's next.
Yeah.
I'm at where I don't want to be right now. I'm stuck in the house with COVID, or I'm stuck in a major that I don't want to be in, that I hate. And the problem is I don't know where to go next.
Right.
Well, we're not talking about for you who don't know where to go. We're talking really about you want to go somewhere, but you can't get there.
Right.
And the opportunities are not falling, and the coins are, and the cards are really not falling in your place.
Yeah.
And as Christians, what are we really supposed to do there? So let's back to you now. How did you feel cleaning toilets, knowing you wanted to be in ministry? I'm pretty sure it's an obvious answer, but share.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, dude, I just graduated from college, and now I'm cleaning toilets, and I'm working with mainly refugees. And dude, I was just like, what am I doing? Like, I'm literally with dudes who aren't from this country, who this is the only job they can get. I just graduated college, and I'm stuck cleaning toilets. And so I was like angry at the Lord. I was angry at other people in my life who had better jobs, who had gotten good gigs, who were doing big things. I was like, man, why am I here? Like, God, why would you do this? And I was telling you this earlier, but I was reading 1 Samuel, and I'm looking at David, and David gets anointed king in chapter 16, 1 Samuel 16. And then 4 chapters later, Jonathan's like, hey, dude, you got to like bounce. Like, Saul's out to kill you. And so for 15 years from David being anointed, it takes him 15 years to become king. And it's like, why did God put him in that situation? And it's like, man, he wanted him to become dependent on the Lord and Lord alone. And so then, I mean, the same thing kind of happened to me. It was like I was forced to be dependent upon the God, because I couldn't hope in my job. I had no hope there. I knew there wasn't a future there. I had no hope. It forced me to put hope in the Lord. And there's a guy named Moses. I was telling you about him, from South Sudan, moved here when he was 18. He has 6 kids. Clearly didn't go to high school here, started working. I worked with him at Give Clean every day, and he works about 95 to 100 hours a week, man, and just loves the Lord more than anything. Is full of joy, and I'm like, man, what is different? Like, why is this? Why is he happy and I'm not happy? And he just had hope, man. He's constantly thinking about eternal life and hope in the Lord. 7 years ago, his house burned down, and he had no renter's insurance. Not even phased, like doesn't even flip a switch. It's just like, God's good, simple as that. So that was humbling for me. Like, oh my goodness, like I'm full of pride. Like, I think God owes me things. I think he owes me stuff. I'm like, well, he gave it all already.
Yeah.
Like, I'm the one in debt. And so some crazy stuff, but yeah, that was kind of what I was going through my mind, and kind of the process of what happened a little bit.
Do you have any funny memories with this guy Moses or anything like that?
Dude, Moses is a legend. Funny stories, man. I got a lot, but a couple of them. One time, I'll tell 2. One time we were in a place, this isn't spiritual, but I called the guy Brother Bear. I was like, hey, man, what's up, Brother Bear? And this dude kind of gets angry. He's about to like swing on me. And Moses is like, bro, what the heck? So he kind of finesses this dude for me. Like, this dude's about to pop off on me. Moses has to restrain this dude because I called him Brother Bear, which was super weird. And then one other one we had with him, we were at the school cleaning, and this guy, he's like, hey, man, you believe in Jesus? The dude's like, yeah, man. Like, I'm a Muslim.
Moses is talking to this guy.
Yeah, Moses is talking to this dude, and he says he's a Muslim, and Moses just flips a switch. He's like, what? You're a Muslim? He's like, I beg you. He's like, you need to know Jesus the way I do. And he's like crying like profusely. And so it's just like, it was hilarious. But he's just like, that was him. A heart for the Lord.
How did that guy react?
Bro, he was kind of like stunned. He was just like, what? So he gave him his number. He's like, let's talk more. Like, he was open to it. He was like, whatever, dude. I'm in. It's crazy.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, it was wild.
So, you know what I love about you, Dyllan? You know, you talk about Moses, but just a little bit about yourself before we get back into where you were at Give Clean, right? Yeah. So, Dyllan, life of the party, full of energy. Literally, we were at Wendy's earlier, and we ordered like 26 junior bacon burgers or something, and we're just sitting there, and it got quiet, and you just literally were like, I was driving, but you were honking my horn or whatever, and I'm just like, stop.
Yeah, they were ticked, bro. They're getting so mad. I love it.
But yeah, so working with students right now, you got a heart for students, and that really, it's so funny seeing you clean toilets, because I can't imagine it. Because were you just as full of energy cleaning the toilets? Were you just trying I'm just trying to glorify the Lord in this? Or?
I mean, it was definitely, my energy was a lot lower, and dude, it was like I was working with dudes who could barely speak English, so it was like, it was really hard. But I mean, I tried to keep hot, but it was, it's like, I mean, I was literally cleaning poop, so it was crazy. I was like, this is wild.
So do you feel like the Lord placed you there?
100%. 100%. Looking back, again, like I said, it was like, why would you do this, God? And God's just like laughing. He's like, I got a reason. And it revealed everything. My pride, my selfishness, like, was just exposed.
Mm-hmm.
And so there's no doubt in my mind he placed me there for a reason. I just wasn't ready for ministry. I wasn't ready for anything, any responsibility, because I couldn't be faithful in cleaning a toilet. So
when did it take you for it to be revealed that he's, as you've learned from it, is your pridefulness, that's why he placed you there? When did the lights kind of flip on for you? Was it after you were working there? Was it while you were working there?
Yeah, it was probably more a while. And that was just in conversation with Moses and hearing just how difficult his life was, and how he was still more joyful and hopeful and more content with life than I was. So then I was like, again, there's got to be a difference here. And it was just, he had hope. It was simple as that. And then the kind of lights flickered. I'm like, man, I have a job. I'm working at a great place with a dude who loves the Lord so much. And I have salvation through Christ and Christ alone. Like, what else do I need? Like, why do I need a good job? Why do I need these things? Every work I give is a debt to God. Like, he doesn't owe me anything, So I think it clicked on during it. And towards the tail end, it got a lot better. And then a job came up for ministry. And I was like, we're full sending this.
Yeah, for sure. As you're talking about that, I think back to a guy I was talking to like just a few years ago, and he was talking about him and some other guys that he was really trying to get into the Word with and get into the Bible with, and he was running into them like, it wasn't, it just wasn't going too good. They would get there and try to talk about their walk and stuff, and maybe they could have did some different things or whatever, not to knock them at all, but they kept running into, when they would say, all right, what's the Lord doing in your life? And they want to open up, that they would all just say, well, it's just teaching me patience right now, teaching me patience. And even from that theme, I think that translates to a lot of people's areas, as I mentioned before, is probably a lot of us with the wrong perspective can automatically assume that we're just waiting.
Right.
And when we're in a posture of waiting on the next thing, which granted you should be, there's a balance of you planning and waiting on the Lord. There's a healthy balance there that you need to figure it out. Not to the point where you sit on your hands, and not to the point where you run after it and you look back and you say, well, where was the Lord during that?
Right.
You end up in a bad spot when you don't consult with him.
Yeah.
But with that being said, when we have the wrong perspective of just, well, I'm just waiting on the next thing, on the next thing, we become so fixated on the next thing to where we do not fully take advantage of the what appear to us mundane opportunities that are before us. From ministry to, maybe if I would have done this well, the next thing would have come quicker, or the better thing would have come, rather than I've stipulated, or like I have hindered the possibility of the next thing coming. Not that, you can't do anything against the Lord, because what he wants is going to happen.
Right.
But to the point of your continual disobedience.
Yeah.
And so the theme that I see from your life here, Dyllan, not to toot your horn at all, because there's nothing really to toot. I mean,
that's true though.
Is faithfulness.
Sure.
Is the lesson of what it means to be faithful. And I think that's the theme of what we're getting here for this episode, and how Christians, we have to be faithful fully in where we're at. So can you speak just a little bit to like what faithfulness is, how you view that, what you learned from your situation specifically to faithfulness? Of course, it revealed your pride, and specifically that you said, but faithfulness, speak to that.
Yeah, man, when I think faithfulness, again, I think that is just, you have faith in God and God alone, right? And God gave us scripture. He gives the word. He communicates through the scriptures. And I think faith is, man, I believe the word is inerrant. It's complete without error. And I think obedience, like complete obedience, is complete faithfulness. And we can never attain that, but I think faith equals obedience.
Yeah, I'd agree.
I think believing his word, again, I always refer to David, but I mean, like, even David in the wilderness when he's running from Saul, like, he was still, after he screwed up a couple times, obedient to God and his word, regardless of what was happening. And God promised him. You talk about Romans 8, man, I'll work out everything for the common good for those who believe. And so it's like, obedience sometimes doesn't look like anything's going right. Sometimes it looks like it's leading to everything bad, but in the end, it's like, man, that's where fruit's going to be, that's where hope's going to be, and that's where joy's going to be. And I think when I finally was just like, man, I'm going to be faithful and obedient in cleaning a toilet. Like, I'm going to be content with this, knowing God's using it to further his kingdom, to do something with it, is when I was kind of like, okay, like this is okay. I can get through this type deal.
I see a contrast in thinking, to use a little rhyme here, is you go from surviving to thriving in a way.
True.
But you're still cleaning the toilet. So
Right.
how do you thrive cleaning a toilet? How does your mind really change from survival to revival? There you go, thrival.
Survival?
To thrival.
To thrival. Yeah, dude. I mean, that's a great question. And it's true. It really is. And I think, gosh, it really is just clinging to the truth, man. A, God is for me. Like, he is for me. B, he already sent his son. His son's been sent. He's died. He has given us salvation, our deliverance from sins. I think just resting in that and like, man, what God's will is will be done. If he wants me to work here for 40 years, if that's his actual will, it be done. If that glorifies him the most, it be done. So I think just being content with whatever he brought at that point, it was like, again, working with Moses and seeing him be content with 6 kids, working, cleaning toilets for 90 hours a week, and him just loving because he knew, hey, the Lord's for me, salvation's mine, is where I think I finally was just like, man, I'm cool with this. Like, I'm okay with this at this point.
If someone, maybe we got somebody at the table here with us and they're in a similar situation.
Yeah.
They're somewhere they don't want to be. They know where they They know where they want to go, and they're just not there yet. And they're just constantly waiting. What would you tell them now if they were sitting here?
Yeah, I mean, I would say, again, if you can't be faithful at something you don't like, even if you can't be faithful in what God's given you right here, and we're talking about this earlier, he's not going to give you anything else. Like, if you cannot be faithful with what he's given to you right there, why would he give you anything else?
Shoot.
Why would he give you more? And man, I would just say pray. Like, honestly, go to the Lord and beg for opportunities, and beg to reveal where your sin is, beg to reveal why you're in the position you're at, try to get some clarity from him. But I think, yeah, if you can't be faithful with what God has given you right now, why would he give you any more? Like, what would be his point to give you more? And so I think that's where I was at. He's like, Dyllan's a prideful, selfish, young, immature believer. Why the heck would I give him anything of any value right now? And I've learned that quickly. I was like, wow. And I was humbled.
So would you say, before the lights were flipped on, to what you said, your pride, that you went from not being faithful to faithfulness? Trying to be faithful.
I was like trying, yeah.
Not trying to say like perfectly, obviously.
Perfect. Yeah, definitely though. Yeah, it was from being faithless and just hating everything to being, man, I'm going to be as faithful as I can to what he's given me. I'm going to do the best I can in what he's been giving me and try to be the best at what I'm doing for the glory of him and him alone.
So would you say a few things changed, like your work ethic maybe?
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, a better attitude, coming with joy, wanting to, as it sounds, I wanted to clean better. I wanted to actually work hard. I would toy around so much when I didn't care, hide and play on my phone. But it was just like, hey, I'm going to be, again, the best I can, do the best I can at literally cleaning this toilet, at carpeting, at cleaning this carpet. It changed everything.
Well, that's awesome, man. And I think it's something else to remember. I've heard this before, is and it speaks well to what you've told in your story, is you don't accidentally fall into faithfulness.
Sure.
Like, you don't, even though faithfulness is a fruit of the Spirit, and along with all these other fruits of the Spirit, they're not just automatic.
Facts.
You should desire them, and there should be a conviction when they're not present in your life. But with that being said, you don't accidentally fall into faithfulness. And that's something big to walk away from. And as faithfulness, let's look at it like this. Faithfulness is doing your work to the glory of God, yes. So tapping back into that work ethic, like you said, but even the Great Commission, like you wanted to do ministry,
right?
Or like maybe, like as we had David Frazier on a few weeks ago, you want to go to the mission field, but what are you doing right now? Because this is speaking to people that want to do full-time ministry, but how can you want to do vocation? And I'm convicted of this. How can you want to do vocational full-time ministry, but you're not doing your personal ministry right now?
Yeah.
And that's, of course, that's sharing the gospel, and that's helping others follow Christ, like getting into the Word, helping others. As Robbie Gall would say, get into the Word until the Word gets into them,
Legend.
Yeah. Can you speak to that, or like anything that went around, like you're working 60 hours a week, and what did your ministry time look like? Were you getting frustrated in that area?
Yeah, for sure. No, that's a great point. And it was hard for me. I was like, man, where do I go to find ministry? Most of the people I worked with, which was really cool, were refugees who were regenerated believers, which was super cool. But I was like, man, where is my ministry? I'm working 60 hours in the summer. At that point, I was engaged to my now wife, so I was spending a lot of time with her, and I was like, man, where is my ministry? And really, is wherever me and Moses went, he was talking to Christ, to someone about Christ, like nonstop. And so my ministry really was, hey, I'm going with Moses. Whoever we come in contact with, we're going to talk about Jesus with them. But yeah, I mean, to your point, it was hard for me to do it, and like, again, it was tough for me to find time to do ministry, but I wanted to do it full time, which is just, I was being a hypocrite at that point. Like, I wasn't even doing it, but I wanted to do it full time. So Moses really was like leading him in that. Like everywhere we went, he was Great Commission minded, and so I kind of just followed his lead. And but it was hard for me, for sure, to be honest.
Yeah, I've been in the same situations before that you've gotten a job where maybe with COVID it's slowed down and you're not using your time wisely, time that you could be doing ministry stuff with. And that doesn't look like going and building a church up.
Right.
But it's literally like, hey, how can I find work to do? Because that's ministry. Doing your job well and working hard is ministry, because it builds a foundation for your testimony.
Yeah.
For people to look at him and say, you know what, I'm going to listen to him.
Yeah. Because
he's working hard. Or I'm not going to listen because he's not working hard. Mm-hmm. But ministry as well is taking care of your employees, taking care of your coworkers, loving people to the point where they will listen to what you say, and it'll make sense when you say I'm a disciple of Christ, because they know that's true because of how you love people, and you're different.
Yeah.
You've got this aroma about you. It's like, this guy, I don't know if he's just a hippie, he's free spirit, or is it the Holy Spirit? Like, I don't know what it is.
No, that's good. Yeah, that's so good. That's truth.
Let me ask you this. So I don't want to paint just a broad stroke either over people's lives and why they're at to where they're at, because there's people who are in different seasons right now. They're in seasons of obviously sowing and reaping, or suffering, depression. Like, there's so many ways to describe where people are at right now, and even more specifically than I just did. But a lot of it can fall into the category of some type of suffering. Obviously there are different kinds of suffering, from losing family members to, I don't want to just say suffering is not having the job you want, but it's on the forefront of your mind, and it's distracting. Sure. But why do you think, and if we can look at like Scripture and how God places these men that we see become leaders, he puts them in the most minuscule that we would view places. Like, they're shepherds. Yeah. Like, what? Right. You know what I mean? And then they become kings. Yeah. Like, what sense does that make? Yeah. Why do you think God puts us in these places that we don't want to be necessarily? That's the best way to put it. And you probably hit on it, but just, I guess, to summarize. Yeah.
Even today at church, I think we look back at John 21. And we look at Peter, who was talking to Jesus before he's crucified. Man, if anyone betrays you, I won't. I'm there for you till the death. I will go with you. I'll be crucified with you. And we see Peter deny Jesus 3 times, and Peter's broke. He's like, man, I've screwed everything up. I'm worth nothing. And we see Jesus come back, and they see him on the shoreline. Peter jumps out of the boat, and he asks him 3 times, hey, Peter, do you love me? And it kind of clicks with Peter. Man, like he's bringing me back to the time I denied him 3 times. And right there, though, God restores him. He's like, no matter what you've done, man, I love you. And I think why he did that to Peter, and why he does that to David, and why he used Moses, is because he took their hope in anything else and kind of stripped it from them. So with David, he couldn't hope in anything else. He gives us sufferings because when we suffer, we realize, man, there's no hope in the world. And we can't hope in this job we have. We can't even hope in the wife we have or the friends we have, because they're all imperfect things. I think he puts us through suffering to make us realize, man, he is the only thing worth putting hope in, because he's perfect God who's given us, again, salvation. So I think that is really it's just shifting our eyes from ourselves to him is really, I think, what ultimately suffering does. Like, removes it from us, our selfishness, and points us to the Lord, is what I would say.
Oh, yeah, that's such a better input than I have, because I'm thinking the whole time before you said that, you're about to step into explaining, like, like preparation, like God prepares us for that role, which is true.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Because if you can't sweep the floors, why do we think you can go to the pulpit in 100%. A way? Or if you've got somebody in ministry that then they say, "Oh, I don't pick up chairs," it's like, brother, that is ministry.
Yeah,
you are going to pick up.
Welcome.
You are going to pick up chairs, but no, like you said it perfectly. Like, excuse me,
it's okay.
You took my water.
A little smoky.
But God tries to help us love Him.
Yeah.
And have I love the word you said, reliance.
Yeah.
You ever watched Dual Survival? You ever seen that? Dude, you were the hippie on
that. Sounds dope.
Are you kidding me? You've never seen it?
Never heard of that.
There's this Dual Survival, obviously 2 people surviving, and they would take these 2 guys that are complete opposites, put them in the woods.
Stop.
And it's not like random picks. It was the same 2 guys every time. It's their show. And it was like this Marine, and then it was like this Arizona sunbathed guy that never wears shoes. Legend. But when they were in like Montana and it was snowing, he had socks on.
He still wasn't wearing shoes.
No, he wasn't wearing shoes.
That's wild.
So it's literally like you, and you can picture some Marine or whatever, like the
Jamie Trussell.
But they would all Jamie Trussell. He probably doesn't listen. But as you can imagine, or no, not as you can imagine, but they would have these snippets of like self-reliance, and they'd give like a tip or whatever. And that's the constant theme of we're always trying to be self-reliant.
Yeah.
And God's heart is to make us reliant completely on Him. And sometimes, like, what did Kenan talk about? Romans 12:1 and 2, being a living sacrifice.
Yeah.
And he says the thing about a living sacrifice. You say it.
Yep.
That's it.
I don't remember what it says, but it's like when I don't know how it goes. Something about fully taking your hands off is when.
Yeah. He said a living sacrifice always wants to get up off the altar.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, that's good. And there's a constant pull and push on your life with God.
Right.
And then what did you just say? He said,
it's like when you fully release, take your hands off the situation, or take your hands off.
Yeah, that's like you still got your hands up.
I don't know.
No, I agree. I don't know what to do with Ricky Bobby.
Hands.
Look, man, it's so true that, and I see it all throughout my life during college when the tighter and tighter that I gripped my life with my hands, and like I was trying to make this secure, safe, planned out life, because that's what I've been taught,
right.
And like, no disrespect to my parents, I have great parents, but they're like, no, you need to plan right. There's wisdom in that, but there's flaws.
Yeah.
And there's hiccups that come when you wrap your life so tight around and you just won't give it up for the sake of planning well.
Right.
And so that's really a hard thing to do, is plan well and trust in God.
It's a weird balance. It really is. And I don't know, I'm still learning and discerning what that really looks like. But I definitely, if you're leaning one way, I lean towards, just like, trusting God. And there is a balance. You can't just be unwise and just, hey, I trust God with everything, let's just do whatever type deal. But I think I always lean towards, hope in the Lord, hope in whatever He's doing, though, for sure.
Matthew 6:33, seek first His kingdom and His righteousness, and all else will be added to you.
Right.
So do you remember what Pastor Vaughn said today in the sermon about God breaking people?
Right.
Do you remember what he said? Can you?
Essentially, yes. In order for God to use someone, he first needs to break them. So before He uses them, typically in the Bible and in life, it looks like He breaks them, which again I think is suffering, like what we're talking about. It's like first He's going to break the flip out of you, and you're going to be like, why, God? And then the light bulb goes off, like, whoa, like I was looking at everything else but God, and He had to use this in order for me to look at God, type deal. But that's was a Flames message. What's a time in life where that happened to you, where you think you had a light bulb moment?
Are you talking to me?
Yeah, I kind of.
Are you asking our audience?
Yeah. No, what's a time in your life where you're kind of just like,
where God had to break me?
Bang. Like, God, wow, He just used this to expose me.
Well, there's plenty I could tell about, but some of them are not appropriate for the view, for the public or whatever. But I will tell you, like, some people know my story, like, saved, in high school, well, not early on, I was like 10, 11. Anyways, following Christ in high school, went to college, was running a business, just making money and all this stuff, and was really just wrapped up in, like, trying to like build a business to help people, or like justify it for ministry, or justify it of like, all right, I'm going to take care of me first so I can like be in this place to, you know, do things for God or whatever. And just being so consumed with that for 2 years, I think. And relationship with God just went down the drain because I was so self-reliant and just missed out on so many opportunities for ministry and just growing in intimacy and relationship with him. And I remember walking into my apartment, looking out just like over the sea of cars of Memphis, and I was just like, I am so done with this. I was like, I am done. I walked in there and I started putting the plan in place just to close my business. Now, I'm not saying anybody should do that because I was in an okay spot. Like I was in college.
Quit your job right now.
Yeah, literally. I did not have children or anything. Like it would have made a lick of difference. Like I was just going to go get another job, but I was going to get away from the idolatry that was security, safety, and success. Wow. I just hit the alliteration mark there.
Bang, bang.
And so that's... There have been plenty other times that God has humbled me and embarrassed me that I don't want to talk about on here. It's inappropriate to talk about with people I don't know. And I don't know you very well. No, I'm just kidding. I can tell you in the car later.
All right, love you.
Dylan, do you have anything else you want to add? You spoke some fire, like just telling your life the past year, walking into ministry, being faithful, awesome things. Is there any other like advice, tips, anything you have to say? Because I know, like, I've said it 3 different times on here, people are probably in a place where they're fixated on what's next, but, like, how do they thrive where they're at rather than just survive, and understanding that the Great Commission takes precedent. And, like, without doing that week to week, like, your work is just work. It's not a calling, it's a career.
Right. Yeah. Tips and tricks. Well, hey, guys, I am a sinful man, far from obedience, and it's like if I can do, I wasn't even that faithful, honestly. So I don't feel qualified to tell you what to do, but I would say, again, steward what God's given you every day when you wake up. Man, realize, hey, God's given me this job to steward well for the glory of Him, and so everything you do reflects Christ. And so I think having that in your mind, like whatever I do today directly reflects Christ. And in life, anything you do, if it isn't to glorify the Lord, is futile, man. Even if that's going to the gym. If you're going to the gym strictly to work out, that's fine. But man, it's a futile act if the glory of God is not on your mind. And so I think when you're going to work, man, it just, again, even if it's cleaning a toilet, it's like, man, how can I be different? How can I glorify God and literally clean this toilet? And you hit on it earlier, it's like just doing it to the best of your ability, being different, doing it with joy. So I think waking up being like, man, I'm on mission for Christ to glorify Him today, which is really hard to do. Clearly it's easier said than done, and I still struggle with that in ministry sometimes, but that'd be my 1 cent.
That's me every day, man.
Golly.
Dylan, this was a killer episode. I'm so glad we got to get Wendy's and get those 24 junior cheeseburgers. Us two didn't just eat them. There were like 5 of us, I think.
Yeah, there's no 4 for 4s anymore.
Yeah, apparently at this location. But Dylan, man, thanks for coming on. We're definitely going to have you on again.
Come on.
I think that's kind of the plan in the future. So don't worry, audience. If you don't like Dylan, you're going to have to get used to him. He is going to be around, and hopefully around to stay a little bit longer.
Love it.
Yeah, man. Thanks for coming on.
Appreciate you, dog.
All right, guys. You know where to find us on the usual networks, everywhere you typically find your podcast. But more specifically, if you search us on Apple Podcasts, you can actually rate and review us on there. That would be a big blessing. That would help us out. So that way, we can help Dylan pay for his house. And all the other things that we need right now.
Please, God.
Well, guys, thank you for listening to another episode of the Long Run Podcast. And as always, we'll see you next week.